on this
Hump Day.
We're pleased to welcome now Congressman Michael Guest. He represents Mississippi's 3rd Congressional District. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks for coming in the studio today.
Gerard, great to see you. Great to be home for the week. So home until Monday, be back in D.C. through the end of July, and then be home for the month of August for our annual August recess. So that's always a good time for me to travel across the district.
Yeah.
Meet with elected leaders, community leaders, and make sure that I'm keeping my pulse on all 23 counties that I have the privilege of representing in Washington.
Yeah. Well, I saw you at breakfast this morning, and I know you had to skedaddle because you had some meetings with some local leaders. I got that done, came in the studio. So just traveling around the district right now, trying to hear from them, see what's going on.
That's
what you
right.
do. Yeah.
Mainly Metro this week. We'll be mainly here in the Metro area most of this week before traveling back. But then when we're home in August, we will be out across the district. We'll hit all 23 counties. A lot of those counties multiple times while we're home. I've got some groups that we're going to visit with and spend time with. But look, I tell everybody, people ask me, how my day's going. I tell them any day in Mississippi is a great day. So always happy to be home, sleep in my bed, get a chance to see my wife when I go to bed and when I wake up in the morning. So that makes my day that much better.
I understand. That's awesome. All right, so we had the big 250th birthday of the United States of America. I know you and Haley were on hand for that celebration. What was it like?
First of all, first time that I've ever spent the 4th of July in Washington. This is one we've circled some time back that, hey, if we're still serving in Washington, D.C. For America 250, this is the one that we want to be there for. And so not only did Haley come up, my oldest son and his wife was there, as well as my youngest son. We had some of my wife's family from Texas that also came up to D.C. So a big group of family that kind of went across the city. But truly amazing, to be in Washington, not people think of the fireworks, and the fireworks were great. The thing I love best was the flyovers, and so there was flyovers throughout the day on the 4th. They actually did the practice runs on the 3rd. So to see some of the military aircraft, the F-22, F-35, you had the Thunderbirds were performing, the B-2, to see some of our military aircraft, particularly the F-22 put on an amazing performance. Didn't just fly by, but about a 15-20 minute flyover, getting to see some of the capabilities of that aircraft. And so anyone that had view of the mall that day got a chance to see those aircraft. So me and my two sons and my brother-in-law, that was probably our favorite part of the weekend, is watching those aircraft. But it was extremely hot for people that were not in Washington. The temperature was 103. You add in humidity, felt like 114. So one of those days where you just walk out, and as soon as you walk out, you get hit by this wave of hot air. You immediately begin to perspire. But look, we pushed through, had a great time, enjoyed celebrating America 250 in our nation's capital.
The Mississippi exhibit at the Great American State Fair looked quite neat, and I think we represented ourselves well.
We did. A huge success. You had a couple of our national championship baseball trophies. State and Ole Miss won the trophies back-to-back, and so those trophies were on display. You had a cutout there of Elvis and a microphone for people to be able to talk about some of our heritage. You had a board that it displayed where people, famous Mississippians, where they grew up, where they were born, where they live and spent their lives. The Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians had an exhibit that was represented there in the Mississippi booth. So I will say, of the booths I visited, I thought Mississippi and Florida were by far the two best. We really went all out, and so there were a lot of positivity from people as they were coming in. I spent a few minutes just kind of at the door when I was in there, just watching people come in, kind of watching their expression, and then hearing them as they leave. You had one entrance and exit. So, and I will tell you that Mississippi can be extremely proud that we put on a great performance for the fair, and that our booth was well received from everybody from across the country and across the world that were there.
Yeah, no doubt. And I was tuned in to the news quite a bit throughout the festivities, and when the reporters just around the crowd would stop and ask someone in attendance about their favorite state exhibit, several did mention Mississippi and Florida too.
Yeah,
amazingly, so they saw it the same way. So, got to be proud of Mississippi for putting its best foot forward, representing our great state for this momentous event, 250th. Dr. Ben Franklin famously said after the framers drafted the founding document, "What'd you guys do there?" Said, "Well, we created a republic if we can keep it." Well, we've kept it for 250 years. It ain't perfect, but it's better than anything else.
And look, I think we see that from all the fans that have come across the globe for the FIFA World Cup events. To see the video of people that have never been in the U.S. before talking about the greatness of America.
Yeah.
Something that we take for granted. And then when they come for the first time and they see the freedoms, the liberties that we have, they see the opportunity that exists in America that exists like nowhere else on the face of the earth. It at times takes things like that to remind us of the greatness of the country that we live in. And look, America, we have our disagreements, our political disagreements at times as to the direction of the country, but I think everyone would have to say that when we set aside those disagreements, America is still the greatest nation on the face of the earth. If people could choose where they were going to live outside of their home country, I would guarantee 90+% of those would say, I want to live in America. I want to be able to enjoy the freedoms and liberties that they have. And so we are blessed to live here. Again, at times we take that for granted. We shouldn't. I know that I've had the opportunities at times to travel to other countries, and when I do, it always makes me appreciate what I have here back home.
Yeah, well said. So I know you guys are in a bit of a recess right now, although all reports indicate the speaker's still heads down, hard at it, trying to wrangle it all up, right?
He is. Look, I tell everybody, look, the toughest job, I think, in America is Speaker of the House.
I agree.
Trent Lott wrote a book a while back called Herding Cats. I tell them if Mike Johnson wrote a book, his book would be called Herding Rabid Cats. Very narrow majority, 3-4 seat majority that we have. So we have attendance issues at times with people who are out with health issues, maybe running for other offices, and then when we are able to get when we are at full attendance, it is important that the speaker be able to get all Republicans working together to get legislation across the finish line. For people that don't understand how legislation is passed in Washington in the House, there's two ways. You can pass legislation by what's known as suspension. Suspension does not require the House pass a rule, but it does require that there be a 2/3 vote. And generally, suspension legislation, less controversial legislation, things that may make minor changes, minor tweaks, but again, not controversial legislation that is supported by both Republicans and Democrats. To pass a major piece of legislation, the first thing you have to do is you have to pass a rule. And a rule vote governs the amendment process and the time for debate. So some pieces of legislation, they are closed to amendments. Some have limited amendments. Others have unlimited amendments. And all that's governed by the rule vote. But a rule vote is traditionally a party line vote. The party in the majority votes for the rule. The minority party votes against the rule. And so what we have seen on occasions is we've seen Republican members join with Democrats to defeat a rule. And if the rule is defeated, then that prevents the legislation from ever coming to the floor to begin debate, to begin the amendment process. And so that's what the Speaker's been working on, to try to deal with a couple of different groups who have different issues that they would like to see attached to must-pass pieces of legislation. So the Speaker's working to get those disagreements worked out, so when we get back next week, we can get back down to business.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. We got a break, but can you hang around?
Yes, we'd love to.
You go back next week?
Yes, Monday.
Okay. Representative Luna, she's kind of throwing a wrench in the works, right?
She's one that has voted against the rules.
Let's get it on the other side. We got Congressman Michael Guest in the Element Wealth studio. We are back in the Element Wealth studio. We are talking to Congressman Michael Guest, represents, of course, Mississippi's 3rd Congressional District. So, Congressman, one of the items of business you guys got to address when you get back is we're facing the money crunch again, running out of money. You got to fund the government. This seems to be the kind of the mode that we're sort of stuck in. Can't get the old regular order going, and hopefully we can get, was it 12, I think, bills?
12, yes.
Yeah. So, of course, it wasn't too long ago we were talking about getting the Senate on board to get ICE and our customs enforcement funded. So we got that done. The Democrats finally, I guess, caved a bit on that. But still, though, we're running out of money. End of September?
End of September.
Yeah.
Will be FY26 will end, and we will begin FY27. In the House, we're making progress. We've passed all 12 of the appropriation bills out of committee. We've passed 2 off of the floor. We had a couple of other appropriations bills that were set to be taken up, but because of some internal issues and us not being able to get a rule across the finish line, those bills did not come up for debate last week when we were in session. And so we've passed 2 bills off the floor, all 12 out of committee. Now, we are light years ahead of the Senate. The Senate has passed 0 bills out of committee and 0 bills off of the floor. They're still arguing in the Senate over what the top line numbers should be to mark these bills up. And so while the House has work to do, I will say that we have worked extremely hard through the committee process to get all of these bills out of committee. Ultimately, what you're going to have to see is the House and Senate come together. They're going to have a compromise between both bodies because this is appropriations bills are subject to the filibuster, the 60-vote rule there in the Senate. These are not bills that we can pass just straight along party lines with Republicans voting in favor and Democrats voting in opposition of those. So you're right. We've got to get our appropriation bills marked up. We've got to get the National Defense Authorization Act bills, or that particular bill is a huge bill that comes to the floor every year that deals with military spending. That bill has made it out of committee. It needs to make it off the House floor and be sent to the Senate. We are also talking about Reconciliation 3.0. I hope that is something that leadership continues to push and continues to move forward. A couple components that we're looking at putting in Reconciliation 3.0 is a military supplemental. The president has requested $350 billion in additional.
Well, it was
military.
$500.
So
he's back down to $350.
He's back down to $350.
Okay.
So the president's looking at $350 billion. And that's his latest request. Now, that request could change between now and the legislation being adopted, but he's looking at roughly $350 billion, if I'm not mistaken, for military spending. Also looking at a way in which we can pass legislation that deals with fraud. We have seen the scope of fraud, particularly in government programs across the country, but Minnesota probably being the poster child for that, where we have just seen rampant waste, fraud, and abuse. And so we want to make sure that we are funding those agencies that are investigating, that are prosecuting, that are seeking to recover some of those dollars. And look, we're also hoping that we can maybe use Reconciliation 3.0 as a way to get either the SAVE Act or the Save America Act, very similar pieces of legislation across the finish line in some shape, form, or fashion. Now, the House has passed both pieces of legislation, both the SAVE Act and the Save America Act. Those bills have been sent to the Senate. The Senate has been either unwilling or unable to act on that. But there is a thought process that if we can put that in the reconciliation package, that might incentivize the Senate to try to take that up. It would get around the 60-vote filibuster. Now, you still would have to have the parliamentarian rule that whatever portion of the SAVE Act is in order. You've got the Byrd rule and the Byrd bath, and you and I have talked about some of the arcane rules that the Senate operates under. But those are some of the things that we as a Congress need to take up, and we need to move that legislation forward as much as possible before the midterm elections. But anything that we don't get to, we need to do our best to wrap up during that lame duck section after the November midterm elections, but before new legislators are sworn in January.
Okay, so let's break that down. That was a lot of great analysis and great overview of kind of where we are with respect to the budget process and critical legislation such as the SAVE Act. Do you think, Congressman, that there is an appetite in the U.S. House to authorize the president's and pass the president's request for $350 billion more in the military budget?
I think there is on the Republican side.
Okay.
I think there would be widespread opposition on the Democrat side. I think you're going to have to use the reconciliation process to be able to get that done. I don't see that you may be able to pick up a handful of votes on the House side, but being able to pick up the 7 Senate votes that you would need on the Democrat side to pass a $350 billion supplemental for military spending, I think would be very difficult. And so I think that is one thing pushing the Reconciliation 3.0. Just as we had to use Reconciliation 2.0 to fund CBP and ICE, which you just spoke about, we're probably likely going to have to use the reconciliation process to get that additional military spending.
And, of course, that is based on the approval of the parliamentarian.
That's right.
As well, and so here's the thing: you may have to look at ways of increasing revenues somehow to satisfy that requirement, or cutting spending elsewhere.
Part of it is, do we look at trying to make that budget neutral? And if we do, then we're going to have to find spending cuts elsewhere. If we look at it, and again, us being leadership, if leadership looks at it and says, hey, this is necessary for us to fund our military, for us to stay competitive with China, for us to replenish the armament that we expended in the ongoing conflict with Iran, we may just be able to just pass that without offsets of $350 billion.
Okay.
And so spending and taxation issues, those issues are clearly within, or should be clearly within, the rules of the Senate. When you start getting into these bird issues, those are going to be things which don't necessarily directly impact spending or taxation. Several years ago, the Democrats tried to increase minimum wage in a reconciliation package that was offered under then President Biden, and the parliamentarian in that case said no, that this does not meet the rules for reconciliation.
That's fiscal policy. That's right. Not budgetary.
Yeah, and so they at that point the parliamentarian axed that from the legislation, and so we've got to find a way to make the Save America Act fit within the rules of the Senate so that we can get it passed. And look, the quicker we get it passed, the better. It needs to be the law of the land, but we really need to see that it's the law of the land going into the elections this November.
So it's being discussed. This is the way I understand it, that the way to make that qualify the SAVE Act we're talking about and the key provisions of the legislation through reconciliation is to provide some sort of funding to the states to implement. And maybe tie it to some other state-level funding as well, and for states that choose not to implement those provisions.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right. You're going to have to attach funding, whether it be grant funding or some sort of funding to authorize the program. It is believed by some that would potentially allow the parliamentarian to rule it being in order and for that to remain in the legislation. But those talks have been ongoing, and those people who really know the ins and outs of the Senate rules are working very hard to craft something that will fit under their rules and allow it to remain in, and again allow us to get it passed before November.
Okay, so almost a form of bribery to the blue states that don't seem to support this, which is insane to me.
Generally, the blue states are the states that like to spend money.
That's right.
They are always the ones that have their hands out looking for more. It would be interesting if you passed a program like that to see if California would say, hey, we're just not going to participate, because if anybody likes federal funding, I promise you it's the state of California.
With a north of $100 billion Medicaid program.
Yes.
Like $110 billion for Medicaid. I just can't even comprehend it. It's absolutely incredible. So a question, though, with respect to a reconciliation bill, what about indexing capital gains? I know that you probably heard that from some lobbyists in various industries, maybe the investment industry, the housing industry, another one. It seems like that would be a good thing for the country. It's been talked about for years. Yeah. This is not new policy. Is that being discussed?
On the tax side, Jason Smith, of course, chairman of Ways and Means, a smart guy, does some amazing things. I think they're really going to lean on Jason for those decisions as it relates to tax policy. Look, anything that allows Americans to keep more of their hard-earned money, we should promote investment. We should praise people that are willing to put their capital at risk and then grow that capital. And so, I mean, it is a very common sense idea. I hope it's something that is being talked about as far as the tax policy that's being included in there. But we've just kind of got to wait and see what they're able to get across the finish line.
You got to go?
I can stick around.
One more segment? One more. Okay, good. We need to talk about the midterms a little bit. Coming right back with Congressman Michael Guest. We are back with you in the Element Wealth studio. We're visiting with Congressman Michael Guest. So, Congressman, your colleague, I use that term rather loosely, Representative Benny Thompson, you know that the Trump accounts launched on July 4th.
That's right.
And to celebrate that, the president actually rang the opening bell for the markets from the Oval Office amongst a bunch of children. And, of course, Michael Dell and his wife there contributing a huge $6 billion to the cause here. And he was calling attention to that. But Representative Benny Thompson, he is advising people not to sign up. He says it's safe to say I would pass on a Trump account. Trump University already taught us what happens when his name is on the brochure, which means he's just, I guess, more obsessed with the name here and more consumed with that, put out by the actual value proposition of these accounts. Your thoughts?
Look, it is a great investment opportunity for anyone out there who has family under the age of 18. Look, I wish my kids were under the age of 18 and I could start a Trump account for them. It's very similar for those that don't understand, very similar to an IRA where you put the money in, the money then grows tax-free and it compounds. You and I mentioned off air, you mentioned some of the exceptions where you can take the money out early, but then when
without the penalty,
and then when an individual reaches the age of 18, they have that money to do whatever they want to with it. We hope that people use that money for college, to be able to get a great education. Others may want to use that money to put a down payment on a home. But look, I think, and that was part of the reconciliation bill, the one big beautiful bill that Congress passed. So I believe that maybe some of Benny's apprehension to that is the fact that he did not support the legislation, but it is a great investment tool. You might as well tell people, don't take advantage of an IRA. You don't want to use that. That's not going to work. We have used this for various other categories. I think it's going to be hugely successful. I think it's going to be something that when the president leaves office, that we're going to credit him for being the person to establish these Trump accounts. And again, I wish I had kids that I could give money in these accounts in their names. If I have grandkids that fall during that time frame of when the accounts are able to be established, I will definitely contribute for them. And I do believe that it's something that we're going to see that's going to stay in the tax code long term.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think there's kind of a sidecar value to this as well, is that it's sort of an antidote to this socialism wave that's sweeping our country, and in some cases even communism. But you've got children, young Americans that are owning something.
That's right.
And they actually are having an investment in intellectual property, which is a feature of a capitalistic economy here, and that creates value and wealth. They're going to start paying attention to this.
That's right.
Yeah, put a little money away, I watch it grow. They're going to get excited about that. It's going to teach the virtues of capitalism.
You're right, a great teaching opportunity. I mean, when that statement comes in and they see that their investment is worth more this quarter than it was the previous quarter, it's going to encourage people to want to invest. And that's what we should hope for. We should hope that people want to take a portion of their income to invest to save that money, whether they're investing for a home, whether they're investing for retirement, and hopefully this will be a mechanism that we can teach children at a very young age the benefits of saving money, that wealth accumulates over time, the compounding of interest, investments, and capital gains, how important that is. And so, this creates a very unique opportunity. So I hope everyone will take advantage of this opportunity. And I would encourage personally myself, everyone, to please look at these accounts. And if they are financially able, please establish these accounts for your children or your grandchildren.
I saw this morning the app. There's an app, folks, you can download to set up your and manage your Trump account and just track it. It is the #1 downloaded app right now on the App Store.
Yeah,
that's good. And this is what differentiates this country, is that you have an opportunity to invest through our markets and to build wealth, whereas the socialism ideology says, no, you just send the money to us and we'll just figure out the best way to redistribute it in society. That's what differentiates our country.
Yeah, a Trump account versus what a Mondami account would have looked like. Mondami, hey, give me all your money and let me decide how I'm going to distribute it. Trump account, hey, you're going to invest your money. You're going to be able to have certain categories where you can choose the risk factor, and then you're going to have something that you own, not something that the government owns at the end of that time limit.
That is just, it's an essential foundation of our country, of our economy, and because it dovetails into the concept of private property rights.
That's right.
Exactly what
and
this
personal
is.
responsibility.
Exactly.
The things that our country was founded on. You go back to our founding fathers, our liberties and freedoms, for us to be able to make those decisions for ourselves and our family, not having those decisions being made by the federal or the local state government. And so, look, these Trump accounts, they do so much for the investment, so much for the teaching opportunities, and we should encourage everyone to take advantage of them.
Yeah, disappointing, Congressman Thompson. So just wanted to make this statement as well. A year since the One Big Beautiful Bill Act went into effect, Congressman, if we hadn't gotten that done, if we had reverted to the Obama-era tax environment, this economy would be in a recession.
No doubt. And look, I tell everybody, the One Big Beautiful Bill, that we prevented a tax increase for all Americans making more than $12,000. If you made more than $12,000, you would have paid more taxes because you would have been in a higher tax bracket.
Yep.
We would have slashed the standard deduction in half. 90% of all Americans take the standard deduction. We would have slashed the child tax credit in half. You wouldn't have the additional deductions for seniors, for individuals who are paid by way of tips, for individuals who are paid hourly and receive overtime. Those additional deductions wouldn't have existed. And I truly believe that the reconciliation bill, by allowing Americans to put more money in their pocket, has contributed to the economic growth that we've seen, the rise in the stock market. And look, if we would not have been involved in the conflict in the Middle East, we had some amazing economic numbers that we were looking at. GDP growth, you and I have talked about that before. We had seen that the job market was doing extremely well. And so whenever the conflict in the Middle East ends, I do believe that Trump has a plan for this economy, but the tax cuts were hugely impactful for all Americans.
I agree. And I just add that the immediate expensing was huge, of course, for our economy. Restoration of that, and then the pass-through deduction for small businesses. They would have taken a huge hit if that expired.
Yeah, and look, and another thing we often don't talk about in the reconciliation bill was the $50 billion that was set aside for rural health care.
Yeah,
you kept hearing about, well, if we're going to cut taxes, then that's going to impact health care and the availability of health care. And so Republicans stepped up and said, we're going to set aside $50 billion for rural health care to make sure that we are providing the health care that all Americans need and deserve.
Big in Mississippi.
Huge. If you talk about health care in Mississippi, you have a few urban areas, but as a whole, we're a very rural state.
Yeah.
And so the Rural Health Care Stabilization Fund, the $50 billion is going to be distributed over the next 5 years, going to be hugely impactful here at home.
All right, before you go, give me your thoughts on the midterms. That's around the corner here.
Yeah, I think right now, it's one of these things that could go either way. The Republicans face some traditional headwinds in the fact that the party in the majority generally loses seats in the midterm elections. But we've got President Trump. If President Trump can motivate his voters to get out, we had some big wins in the court system, both the Calais opinion from the U.S. Supreme Court, the Supreme Court opinion there in North Carolina that overturned their gerrymandering, not North Carolina, Virginia, from 6-5 to 10-1.
Yep.
And so, look, I think Republicans, if we can motivate our people, if we can go to the polls, that we have a real chance to hold the majority in the House and Senate.
Well, I'm hoping that we start promoting the message that the Democrat Party is being overtaken by radicals.
That's right. And I think the message that we're going to have to push, is the difference between sanity and crazy. If you want a sane group of individuals who are going to be steady at the wheel, you need to elect Republicans. If you want to elect someone who is to the far, far left, and that's what we've seen with the socialists, then give the Democrats the opportunity to control Congress, and you're going to see the damage that they can do.
I agree. I feel better about the Senate. I think that's looking good, and this situation in Maine ought to get everybody's attention.
That should. We should wake everybody up.
Yeah. Congressman Michael Guest has been our guest in the Element Wealth studio. Appreciate it, Congressman.
Thanks, Gerard.
Thanks for coming in. We're coming right back with the final segment of this